All right. Let's talk about the great fight that we called this past weekend. Alexis Rocha and Raul Curiel, an absolute thriller up in Ontario, California. Sergio, we expected this to be a good one going in, and it did not disappoint. Back and forth fight between two top 147-pounders. Rocha's boxing and his activity was probably a little bit better. Raul Curiel had some great moments in the middle rounds when he got his power going a little bit. What surprised you? What stood out in this fight between Rocha and Curiel, which ends in a majority draw?
That Alexis Rocha was able to do what he said he was going to do. Box, move, but he also had to do what I said he had to do, and that's fight. You couldn't keep Curiel off just by boxing the entire time. You're going to have to do a little bit of both in order to be this young, strong, motivated Mexican. So Alexis Rocha did that, man. And he passed the test. Even when he was getting hit by good shots, he wasn't getting hit with consistent shots like he was before. He'll get hit with 2-3 shots and then stay there exchanging. He wasn't doing that. He will get hit with one big shot. He will go back to the corner. They will tell him what he needs to do, and then he followed the game plan. So I was really impressed with Alexis Rocha. But then again, flip side of that, Curiel, man, coming out party was a success. I think he made some fans. He made a fan out of me. We're going to see him again, hopefully in this rematch as fast as possible. They were just tailor-made for each other, man. It was a perfect style matchup between an aggressive puncher boxer in Alexis Rocha versus a puncher in Curiel. Curiel's not he doesn't move his feet, but he has that sly Mexican style where it's nothing special, but he's real slick. Even when he gets hit, he turns with the punch, like he rolls with the punch takes up the power off the shot, and then when he throws his shots, he doesn't pull back his punches. So that's timing. He squares up, but it serves him well when he squares up because he kind of at times turns a little southpaw against the southpaw and then goes back to orthodox, is banging to the body really nicely. And I think he had the respect of Rocha, but I think they both got each other's respect with their punching power and abilities. And the draw was the right decision. Everyone hates it, but the crowd there didn't leave disappointed. The crowd didn't leave disappointed. Even one of the judges came up to us afterwards and asked, "How did you have it?" I said, "Draw." I go, "How did you have it?" He goes, "One of my cards was a draw." I forget who it was. What referee was that? Mannix, you were there.
The referee or the judges?
Judges, I'm sorry, the judge.
Yeah, two of the judges, Pat Russell had a 16-12.
No, it wasn't Pat Russell.
Lou Moret, and I forgot who the third judge was. Fernando Villarreal maybe had it for.
No, it was Lou Moret that came up to us then. He had a draw. Yeah, he had a draw.
Credit Lou Moret. I thought I've been critical of Lou Moret in recent years. He has had some outlandish scorecards, but he got that one right. And the judges as a whole got that right. A majority draw was the right call. Let me start with Alexis Rocha because he needed this, right? Like it wasn't going to be 3 strikes and he was out, but this would have been his third time coming up short in one of these crossroads types of fights. In 2020, he lost to Rashidi Ellis. In 2023, he got brutally beaten by Giovanni Santillán. Now here he was back again in a big fight that he needed to win and look good in to maintain his place among the top guys at 147. And I think he did that. And he did that because he grew as a fighter. I went in, I think it was the 6th round, I went into the corner of Raul Curiel, and I was talking to Dickie Eklund Jr., who is the assistant trainer to Freddie Roach in that fight. And I was asking Dickie, like, what was going on in there? What was he seeing? And he was saying, like, we're losing these shots in the mid-range. Like, when they get close, we're not winning those battles. And one of the things he said to me was, like, Rocha is showing us things that he didn't do against Santillán. So he grew as a fighter from all that. I thought his trainer, Hector Lopez, also has shown growth as a trainer, like coming out with that game plan of movement, not only movement, Sergio, but moving to his left, moving into the power hand of Raul Curiel, which you and I were both kind of a little bit puzzled about early on, because usually if you're going to move around the ring, you want to move away from that power hand. They thought that Curiel was much better with that left hook than he was with the straight right. So they were willing to do that in that circumstance. And look, he built himself an early lead doing that. They made some nice adjustments during the fight. They had the fight taken to him. Curiel landed some really good shots, but I thought this fight showed the growth of Alexis Rocha, the improvement of Alexis Rocha from the fighter we saw 3 fights earlier against Santillan. For Curiel, it was such a good learning experience because even though he came in as the more hyped prospect, older than Rocha, but he was the prospect in this matchup. 15-0, 13 knockouts, but he had never faced anyone on the level of Alexis Rocha. Never gone the full 12 rounds in a fight before. I think he gains a lot from an experience like that, learning that, hey, when a guy's going to move on you like that, you've got to come up with a plan to cut the ring off, to not fall behind as early as you did. And in those later rounds where I thought Rocha rebuilt some of his momentum, you've got to fight all the way to the end. You got to be able to win these championship rounds if you're going to be a championship level fighter. I think both these guys showed a lot and showed that for both there is still room to grow in their professional careers.
You said 3 strikes and you're out. No, in boxing, especially when you're giving great fights and you're with the promoter that loves putting up great fights, yes, they would have given him another opportunity. But on the championship level, it would have been out. 3 strikes and you're out. I don't think he wouldn't have got to that championship level. He would have had a similar career than his brother, Ronnie Reels, who was really good, lost on the championship level to solid fighters, got knocked out, came back for that one last hurrah against the champion and came up short. That's exactly where Alexis Rocha was heading. And Hector Lopez is also Ronnie Reels' trainer. So I think everyone grew. That entire team grew. They all evolved, and they learned from those bad losses, and they learned that it takes more than just conditioning and volume and power and aggression. It takes brains, it takes a strategy, and it takes angles. If you're going to be a southpaw, man, what good is being a left-hander if you're not going to use those angles? You talk about a Rocha moving to his left into the power hand of
Curiel.
Yeah. No one does that, but that was what they planned for. And if I was a fighter like Curiel, I would expect the opposite. And for him to be doing something that I wasn't expecting, that throws you for your loop. That buys you some rounds. If you're a fighter, that buys you some rounds and gives someone a different look. I loved it all, man. I just think the judges got it right. It was a draw, but in the end, Rocha came out a winner, and so did Curiel. Everyone won.
Yeah, and Golden Boy is a winner, because now Golden Boy has a anticipated headliner for 2024. I'd like to see these guys take a month and a half off. That was a tough fight. But April, early May 2025, let's bring this back. And Sergio, I want to bring it away from Ontario and down into Los Angeles. Let's bring this fight to the war grounds in Los Angeles. Let's bring this fight to the location where we've seen so many great action fights. Let's bring this into the downtown LA area and really blow this thing out. Curiel has become an LA fighter working with Freddie Roach, got a great Mexican fan base given his past history there, 2016 Mexican Olympian. Rocha from Santa Ana, he was the crowd favorite in this fight. I think they do a big crowd at the war grounds. Let's do it there. Carson, California. Let's go. Run it back. April, May 2024. I'm ready to go.
War Grounds or the Honda Center. Rocha did really well there against Blair Cobbs. The Crypto Arena, of course. The Forum. I mean, you pick anywhere around Los Angeles where there's a Mexican fan base, it's going to sell out. It's going to do great, and we're going to see another war because these guys can't help themselves. Their style is just tailor-made for each other. So wherever you put it, as long as it's in this Southern California area, sign me up.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that both those guys were unequivocal about the fact they need to fight each other next. No in-between fights. Let's run this thing back right away. So on the undercard of this fight was Charles Conwell, who picked up his 3rd straight win of 2024, knocking out Gerardo Vergara. This win capped what was a pretty important year for Conwell, who started the year out coming off a long layoff. He signs with Golden Boy, gets 3 fights, all wins, all by knockout, and is right back in the mix at 154 pounds. Conwell said afterwards, Sergio, that he wants a top guy next at 154. After watching him this year and watching him on Saturday, do you think he is ready for that?
I think everyone thinks he's ready for it. I mean, he's been ready for it. He just needed a promoter. He needed activity. He needed someone to believe in him and invest in him that actually has television dates and has a network behind him and a treasure chest of money. Incomes, Eddie Hearn. You earn with Hearn, man, and I think he's going to be doing just fine.
No, he's Golden Boy. What are you talking about? He's a Golden Boy fighter.
while he's fighting on the zone. But you're in
Right.
with Hearns. How about Golden Boy and Eddie Hearn match up and fight someone at 154 there? Is there 154 in a matchroom stable? Let me
There's
think.
lots of 154s. The
Well,
matchroom
there you
stable.
go.
Yes.
That's what you got to do then. That you asked me the question. You collaborate. And co-promote this and do it the right way. I think Charles Conwell has a high ceiling. I think either Virgil Ortiz on the Golden Boy side, or I'm blanking right now, but someone on the Matchroom side at 154.
They got Madrimov over there.
No,
If he
not
gets
him.
through. All right. Well, all right. There's some other guys on that side. But look, to quote the great Roy Jones, y'all must have forgot about Charles Conwell, because Charles Conwell, we forgot coming out, over the last few years before his lengthy layoff, was a 154 pounder on the rise, a 2016 U.S. Olympian, youngest fighter on that U.S. Olympic team. Again, has had some setbacks over the last couple of years, but what he's shown in 2024 against some credible competition, right? Like, he begins the year fighting Nathan Gallimore. That's an experienced guy that he went up against. Vergara, we didn't know much about, but he was 20-0 and showed he had a good chin for most of that fight. What I liked about Charles Conwell, especially in this most recent fight, is he's such a complete fighter, right? Like, offensively, we know what he can do. He's got 3 knockouts, and he just battered Vergara over 7 rounds of this fight. But defensively, he is sharp, man. Like, look at some of these numbers. Vergara threw 480 punches in that fight. He landed 79 of them. That is a 16.5% connect rate. And whether it's slipping, blocking, parrying, like, Conwell defensively has a little bit of everything. And he's not one of those, like, boring defensive guys. He's a guy that will, show great defense and then come back and try to take your head off. Like, he's got a little bit of everything when it comes to being a professional fighter. And look, he showed good patience in this fight. He had to chop Vergara down, as I mentioned. Like, Vergara took some shots early on, and it only took a while for Conwell to get to him, and he eventually did. So he's really showing that right now he is the total package. Now, as far as what he should get next year, I don't think he should be looking at the top of the 154-pound division, right? Like, guys like Fundora, Terrence Crawford, Virgil Ortiz, who he and his team badly want, Madrimov, like, all these guys either have fights or are planning fights. Like, they're not going to be in the mix in the first half of next year. So he should keep doing what he's doing and get back in like February or March and keep this activity train kind of rolling. There are some really good fights at 154. 154 is one of the deepest divisions in all of boxing. And you just have to look at the rankings to find guys that might make some sense. Like, Josh Kelly is someone that is right above him, I believe, in the WBO rankings. That's a good fight. Erickson Lubin, he's someone that'll fight anybody. He's been looking for a fight for a while. That's a great fight. Jesus Ramos.
That's a great fight, but that one could actually turn against Conwell because both of them.
They all are. If you're gonna fight this level, there's risk to everything. But these are the kind of BB plus level guys you got to beat in order to get these A fights. So if you're Conwell, don't wait around for Virgil Ortiz and see what happens to him in the Madrimov fight. Like, book a fight for March at the latest. Get back in and look for one of these top guys at junior middleweight. There's so many good guys, and like, they're not going to cost a lot of money. Right? The guys I'm talking about, whether it's Kelly or Lubin or Ramos, they're not super expensive guys. You can do a deal like this if you're Golden Boy. I want to see him in one of those guys. See him in one of those guys, and then get into the next year. Also, if you're Golden Boy, how about you take Conwell back to Cleveland, Ohio? Like, let's do a show back in Cleveland. Like, Conwell, Sergio, he told us some really great things about what he's doing in Cleveland. Like, opened up his own gym just a couple of weeks ago, partnered with a mental health program to bring kids in and get them working and get them into the boxing game. His team said he had like 70 kids sign up in the first week. Free boxing. All this is on him. He's doing this. So let's bring a show to Cleveland, Ohio. See if Charles Conwell can draw a crowd out there, because I think he's a budding star. I really do.
He's a throwback fighter, and I think I mentioned that on the telecast. He doesn't step back too far; he just barely makes you miss and makes you pay. He's a very muscular fighter. He really is special. He really is special. I'm glad he finally got the platform and the activity to finally prove that he's special. And this opportunity has only has only gotten better. He got a lot of eyes on him. I think he's probably stole the night as far as like, someone that we didn't expect that much from, and he did something really big. So yeah, man, these Midwest fighters are just special. Very special fighters from Michigan, from Ohio, from way back. They just have something in the water over there. And I think Conwell, Josh Kelly, I like that fight. I think I like that fight. That's the one that I'm talking about. Ramos will be interesting too. That will be you like to say this word, slobber knocker. That's the type of fight that it'll be because Ramos he comes. He takes a big punch, he throws a big punch, he has motivation, he has some good wins under his belt. I think that's a great fight to make, if not Kelly.
Yeah, just stay busy. Don't wait around. Don't let, your skills atrophy again. Like the difference in Conwell from the Gallimore fight to now is noticeable, particularly defensively. He was as sharp as he's been all year in this last fight against Vergara. 16.5% connect rate. And we were watching from right there, and you could tell that defense was on point. Okay, let's talk for a minute about Dillian Whyte, who was back in action against Ezekiel Tete, who was this African knockout artist, like his big puncher from Ghana. And this slobber knocker might not be the word, but it was kind of close to it. It was messy though. It was two big guys.
This was a lot sloppier than a slobber knocker. This was a sloppy Joe. This was a sloppy Joe of a fight, but it was entertaining. It was entertaining because both these guys were winging for the fences. They were headhunting too much. I mean, Dillian Whyte, they call him the body snatcher. He wasn't snatching no bodies, man. He was headhunting. I mean, this was just two big men going for the knockout. It looked like a street fight. It looked like a street fight between two big punchers that don't really have head movement or footwork, but that's what you want in the heavyweight division. I was thinking about not watching that fight live, but then I'm like, well, let's see what's going on. I'm glad I caught it live, man. I was by myself here. I'm like, whoa, standing up. I love seeing that, man, and especially when it comes to guys that deserve these type of moments. Because Dillian Whyte has given us so much, man. He really is giving us so much because look, he's what, 31-3. He's only lost to 3 champions, 3 world champions. There's no shame in that. And everyone else that is on his resume, he's given hell to, man. So I like the fact that Dillian Whyte's still around. I like the fact that they're giving him opportunities, and he's fan friendly, man. People are still going to watch. He's still going to fill out arenas, but he's always going to be the B-side. All right, there's no helping that, and that's fine with that. Just give this man a little bit more money. Give him some A-side money. Give him an A-side opponent, and give him another opportunity because he deserves it.
Yeah, but you got to be real careful with who you match him up with because, some of his recent wins, Jermaine Franklin, Ezekiel Tete, like, fine. You want to put him in with somebody like that, I'm all for it. I don't want to see him in with, like, Zheli Zhang. No. I don't want to see him in with anybody that is considered a puncher at heavyweight because at 36, Dillian Whyte is chinny, right? And he's especially chinny to those uppercuts. Like he cannot eat an uppercut for the life of him. Alexander Povetkin put him down and out with an uppercut. We saw Tyson Fury knock him out with an uppercut. Granted, these are the case of Fury, among the best in all of boxing. But at 36, I don't want to see Dillian Whyte in with a true A-level type of guy. Like, if you want to make another fight between, say, Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora, like, I think both those guys should probably think about hanging him up. But if Derek Chisora, Sergio, can get through Otto Wallin, which is a tough fight for him because Otto might just outbox him. But if for somehow reason he gets through that fight, then okay, let's see him in with Derek Chisora or Jarrell Miller, somebody like that. I don't want to see Dillian Whyte in with a puncher because I think Dillian Whyte's going to get sparked, and I don't think that's going to be a good finish to the career for Dillian Whyte.
How about a vulnerable puncher? Well, you can't see him against another champion like Daniel Dubois.
Daniel Dubois is not a vulnerable guy anymore. Daniel Dubois is the heavyweight champion of the world.
You.
Like, Daniel Dubois is not vulnerable. Daniel Dubois just went through Filip Perkovic and Anthony Joshua. If you get through them without getting knocked down, you are no longer vulnerable. You shed that label. Come on.
All right. Well, then that's the one I would like to see him with because I don't want him against a slick heavyweight like a Frank Sanchez. I don't want him against.
No.
Maybe. How about Andy Ruiz? Andy Ruiz. If you can't get Danny, give me Andy Ruiz. That's another.
The old man bracket.
Two guys that always come to fight are exciting fights. You can never rely on them as far as their conditioning or their camps or their headspace, but they come to fight every single time and they got enough power and experience to get it done. There you go. I like that fight as well. But I definitely think he needs somebody that's still relevant, that still pays, and people are going to be intrigued to watch the matchup on television. So yeah, I think he deserves it.
Uh, yeah, he's still a big enough name over in the UK to get a reasonable fight. I just want to see them be very careful with his opponent's selection. Don't put him in with a real guy. You want to do Andy Ruiz, you want to do Jarrell Miller, you want to do Derek Chisora, fine. Stay away from Zheli Zhang, stay away from Dane Dubois, stay away from these elite guys because Dillian Whyte's just not there anymore. He's 261 pounds for this fight. That's one of the highest weights of his professional career. Like, he's on the back end. If he wants to make a little bit more money, fine, but be very careful with who you match him up with. Real quick, Sergio, before we move on, also on Saturday, we had MJ Akhmadaliev picking up an interim version of the 122-pound title. Inoue, of course, is the undisputed champion at 122. Third-round knockout for Akhmadaliev. Afterwards, Akhmadaliev and Eddie Hearn keep pushing this idea that Naoya Inoue is ducking MJ Akhmadaliev. That, like, Inoue, for some reason, is purposefully avoiding Akhmadaliev, which you and I both know is insane. It's utterly ridiculous. The reason that Inoue and Akhmadaliev has not happened to this point is because Akhmadaliev, a couple of years ago, got upset by Marlon Tapales. We called that fight. Like, he got beat by Marlon Tapales and lost his unified championship. If he had beaten Tapales, he would have gotten first crack at Inoue for the undisputed championship a couple of years ago. So you and I like Akhmadaliev. We like the Diazes. We like everybody associated with that camp. Vadim Kornilov, all those guys, they're there. They're great guys and really good fighters. But the reality is that Akhmadaliev missed his chance to face Inoue, and now he's sort of scrambling to try to get another. All that being said, I do think at 122, Akhmadaliev and Inoue is probably the most competitive fight that is out there. Like, Inoue is going to take on Sam Goodman now in January. Goodman had that cut that scrapped the fight for this month. He's going to come back. But Sam Goodman, respectfully, he's going to get mowed down by Inoue. He's not in Inoue's class. Akhmadaliev might get mowed down too. Like, it might not go his way. But I think that's still a good fight. And if Top Rank and Inoue's Japanese promoters are looking for a big fight, either in the U.S. or over in Japan, there probably isn't a better one than Naoya Inoue, who is still a top guy at 122 pounds.
No, I don't think. I think the monster. First of all, the monster ain't afraid of anybody. All right, so Eddie Hearn and Matchroom and Akhmadaliev need to understand that when you're the number one guy, pound for pound, when everyone is coming at your throne, they're not afraid, man. Now it's time for them to beat the champions and they're prize fighters. They go where the prize is. So Akhmadaliev is the type of fighter that needs to understand that he's not the A side. He needs to deserve the A side. But I would love that fight because it'll look similar to Nonito Donaire against Monster because he has footwork. So I think if Inoue does end up fighting someone like MJ, it'll be a good fight. It wouldn't be a one-sided fight. MJ has the footwork to give him the issues. He fights from that southpaw stance. He's strong enough. He's fast enough, and he needs that opportunity. He's already come up short, so he's hungry enough. Footwork gives issues to Inoue because Inoue has some of the best and most explosive feet, but he has explosive hands as well. So you're going to have to compete with that, with the footwork, and put yourself in position. And Akhmadaliev, a lot of these Uzbek fighters have that.
Yeah, and look, Inoue and specifically Top Rank, have talked about doing a fight in Vegas in April or May. Maybe that gets pushed back now that the Goodman fight's been pushed to January, but at some point next year, they would like to bring him back to the United States. And Akhmadaliev fight's a pretty good fight to bring back there. I mean, Akhmadaliev is not a known guy in the U.S., but he has been fighting in the U.S. for a while, and he's probably one of the best guys. He is one of the best guys left at 122 pounds. So I would like to see that fight ultimately happen if Inoue stays at 122. And the reality is there's nothing for him at 126. Like, he can go up and fight like Nick Ball. That's not really a big fight either. So I'd like to see Inoue, if he stays at 122, I'd like to see him fight Akhmadaliev.